Jasmine's dream wedding turns into a nightmare. Maya reveals David's dark secret. The night before, Maya and David emerged from the cellar looking disheveled. At the reception, Maya discloses David locks her in the cellar. Chaos breaks out, and David is arrested. But can Jasmine truly shield Maya? Hey everyone, welcome to Worldly Whispers. Let's get started. The much-anticipated wedding day of Jasmine and David has finally arrived. The reception hall is a vision of elegance, its every corner adorned with beautiful decorations. Soft twinkling lights are strung across the ceiling, casting a warm and inviting glow. Exquisite flower arrangements in shades of white and blush fill the space, their sweet fragrance permeating the air. Crystal champagne flutes clink merrily as guests, dressed in their finest, engage in excited conversations, creating a lively and joyous atmosphere. However, in a quiet and unassuming corner, a small figure stands apart from the celebration. Maya, Jasmine's 9-year-old daughter, is dressed in a pretty pink flowered girl dress. But her eyes tell a different story. They are wide and filled with a sense of unease, as if she is carrying a heavy burden that no child should have to bear. The night before the wedding, there were already signs of trouble brewing beneath the surface. The Thompson home, which was usually a haven of calm, was filled with an odd tension. Maya and David emerged from the cellar, both looking rather disheveled. David, who was typically well-groomed, now had his hair in a state of disarray, with stray strands sticking up at odd angles. His shirt, which had started the day crisp and neat, was now wrinkled and partially untucked. His eyes darted around the room nervously, as if constantly on the lookout for something or someone. Jasmine, who had just returned home from her last-minute wedding errands, noticed the strange state of her fiancé and daughter. She called out to them, her voice filled with a mix of relief and anticipation for the upcoming wedding. But as she took in their appearance, a flicker of concern passed over her features. She asked them what they had been doing in the cellar, but David's response was cold and detached, a simple yes, when she wondered if they had retrieved wine. Maya remained silent, her eyes downcast. Jasmine tried to brush off her concerns, attributing their behavior to pre-wedding jitters. After all, tomorrow was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, the culmination of months of planning and years of love. She hugged Maya, but could feel a slight tremor running through the child's small frame. As the evening wore on, the tension in the house seemed to ease a bit, replaced by the normal routines of a family preparing for bed. The next morning, the house buzzed with activity. Jasmine was a whirlwind of energy double, checking every detail for the wedding. Her wedding dress, a stunning white gown, hung on the back of the closet door, waiting to be worn. Maya, on the other hand, seemed lost in the chaos. She clutched her flowered girl dress tightly, her small face showing signs of anxiety. David, in a stark contrast to his mood the previous night, was now full of energy and cheer. He moved around the house with a sense of purpose, adjusting his tie and carrying a tray of coffee cups. He greeted Jasmine with a warm smile and a kiss, and his excitement seemed to be contagious. Jasmine, seeing this side of David, felt her worries from the previous night melt away. She leaned into his embrace, looking forward to starting their new life together. As the morning progressed, Sarah, Jasmine's best friend and maid of honor, arrived at the house. She brought with her a sense of organization and energy, taking charge of getting Jasmine ready. David took the opportunity to help Maya into her flowered girl dress. As he knelt beside her, his movements gentle, he told her how beautiful she looked. But there was an undercurrent to his words, a subtle tension that was hard to miss. Maya flinched slightly when he touched her, a reaction that Jasmine caught a glimpse of in the mirror. However, before she could dwell on it, Sarah was asking for her attention, and the moment passed. As the time for the wedding ceremony drew near, the guests began to arrive at the venue. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Maya stood at the entrance of the aisle, holding her basket of rose petals. Her eyes scanned the room, and she could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on her. David stood at the altar, looking handsome in his tuxedo, but his gaze kept returning to Maya, watching her with an intensity that seemed out of place. Jasmine, resplendent in her wedding gown, made her way down the aisle. As she walked, she couldn't help but notice the way Maya stood rigid and unsmiling beside David. But the joy of the moment soon overtook her, and she focused on the man she was about to marry. The ceremony began, filled with beautiful words and promises of eternal love. But even as Jasmine stood there, exchanging vows with David, a small part of her couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The reception is in full swing, a vibrant celebration filled with music, laughter, and dancing. The dance floor is crowded with guests twirling and swaying to the rhythm of the music. The crystal chandeliers overhead cast a warm, golden glow, adding to the magical atmosphere. Champagne flutes are constantly refilled, and the sound of clinking glasses and cheerful conversations fills the air. Amidst this joyous chaos, Maya stands on the periphery, her small figure seemingly forgotten in the merriment. The once beautiful pink flower, girl dress she wears now feels like a prison, constricting her movements and her spirit. Her eyes are fixed on the microphone stand at the edge of the dance floor. It stands there, a silent yet powerful symbol of a chance for her voice to be heard. Maya's heart pounds in her chest as she hesitates. Memories of her father's warnings echo in her mind, filling her with fear. The threat of punishment for speaking out looms large. But as she watches her mother, Jasmine, laughing and dancing with David, a sense of determination wells up inside her. She can no longer keep the secret that has been weighing her down. She knows she has to do something, for her own sake and for her mother's. With a deep breath, Maya starts to move. Her steps are slow and tentative at first, as if she is walking on eggshells. But as she gets closer to the microphone stand, her resolve strengthens and her pace quickens. A few guests notice her movement, and their conversations falter as they watch the small girl with curiosity. Finally, Maya reaches the microphone. She has to stand on her tiptoes to reach it, her small hands gripping the stand tightly, her knuckles turning white. The room is still filled with noise, but as she opens her mouth to speak, her voice cuts through the din like a sharp knife. "Dad always locks me in the cellar," she says, her voice clear and strong, yet trembling with emotion. The words hang in the air, and in an instant, the entire room falls silent. It's as if time has stopped. The music fades away, and the laughter and conversations are replaced by a stunned hush. Guests freeze in their tracks mid-motion, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Champagne flutes are left halfway to lips, and forks hover over half-eaten slices of cake. Jasmine, who is in the middle of a dance with David, stops abruptly. Her face drains of color, and her eyes widen in horror as she turns to look at Maya. The joy and happiness that had filled her just moments ago are replaced by shock and confusion. "Maya," she says, her voice barely above a whisper, "what did you just say?" Maya's eyes lock with her mother's. The fear and pain that she has been suppressing for so long now come flooding to the surface. Tears stream down her cheeks, but her grip on the microphone remains firm. "Dad always locks me in the cellar," she repeats, her voice stronger this time, filled with the courage that comes from finally sharing her secret. "He puts me there when you go to work. I have to sit on the old sofa for hours and hours." A collective gasp goes through the room as the implications of Maya's words sink in. Some guests look horrified, their hands covering their mouths in shock. Others are confused, their brows furrowed as they try to make sense of what they have just heard. And a few turn accusing eyes towards David. David, who has been standing frozen on the dance floor, his face pale as a sheet, now looks around the room, his eyes darting from one face to another. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. His eyes meet Jasmine's, and for a moment, he seems to be at a loss for what to say. Jasmine's mother is the first to break the silence. She rushes to Maya's side, wrapping her arms protectively around her granddaughter. "Oh, my poor baby," she cries, her voice choked with emotion. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" As if her movement has broken a spell, the room erupts into chaos. Voices rise in anger and confusion. Some guests demand explanations, while others express their outrage. A few move towards David, their faces dark with fury. Jasmine stands alone, her wedding dress suddenly feeling heavy and suffocating. She looks from Maya, sobbing in her grandmother's arms, to David, who is now beginning to back away from the advancing crowd. Jasmine's mind is racing. The pieces of the puzzle that she has been subconsciously gathering over the past few months, Maya's increasing withdrawal, David's mood swings, the odd moments she had glimpsed between father and daughter, now fit together, forming a horrifying picture. With a sudden burst of energy, she strides towards David, her eyes blazing with anger. "David," she says, her voice low and dangerous, cutting through the noise of the room. "What is Maya talking about? Why would she say you lock her in the cellar?" David's eyes dart around the room, looking anywhere but at Jasmine. His face, which had been pale with shock, now flushes red. He opens his mouth to speak, but his words are jumbled and incoherent. "Jazz, baby, you can't believe this," he stammers, his tone pleading. "She's just a kid. She doesn't understand what she's saying. I would never." But before he can finish, Jasmine's father steps forward, placing himself between David and his daughter. "That's enough," he says, his voice low and threatening. "You don't get to speak to her right now. How dare you let our granddaughter wait alone in the cellar for hours?" The tension in the room ratchets up another notch. David's friends, who had been watching the scene unfold with growing unease, now move to his side. "Come on, man," one of them says, placing a hand on David's shoulder. "This is all just a misunderstanding, right? You wouldn't do something like that." But their words of support die on their lips as they see the look in David's eyes, not of innocence or confusion, but of a man caught in a trap of his own making. Jasmine's mother, still holding Maya close, speaks up again. "We always knew something wasn't right," she says, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and regret. The way Maya would flinch when David came near, how quiet she'd become. "We should have said something sooner." The realization that others had noticed something amiss, that there had been signs she had missed or ignored, hits Jasmine like a physical blow. She feels as if she is drowning, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what is happening. But as she looks at Maya, sees the fear and relief warring in her daughter's eyes, Jasmine feels a surge of resolve. She knows she has to protect her daughter, no matter what. In the chaos that follows Maya's heart-rending revelation, Jasmine is left reeling. The once joyous reception hall has transformed into a scene of turmoil, with angry shouts, shocked gasps, and the sound of people rushing about filling the air. Jasmine's mind is a whirlwind of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, and above all, a fierce determination to protect her daughter. With her hands shaking, Jasmine reaches for her phone to call the police. The need for help is urgent, and she knows that only the authorities can bring a semblance of order to this nightmare. As she dials the number, her eyes are fixed on David, who stands a short distance away, still frozen in place, his face a mask of panic. Seeing Jasmine reaching for her phone, David suddenly snaps out of his stupor. A wild look comes over his eyes, and he lunges forward, his hands outstretched as if to stop her. "Jasmine, no. You can't do this. You don't understand," he yells, his voice hoarse and desperate. But his attempt to intervene is in vain. The male guests, who have been watching the scene unfold with growing outrage, quickly move to restrain him. They grab his arms, pinning them behind his back, and hold him firmly in place. David struggles against their grasp, his body writhing as he tries to break free, but their hold is too strong. Jasmine's mother, still holding Maya tightly in her arms, is overcome with a mix of anger and regret. "We always knew something wasn't right," she cries out, her voice trembling with emotion. The way Maya would flinch whenever David was around, how she became so quiet and withdrawn. "We should have paid more attention, said something sooner." Her words hang in the air, a poignant reminder of the signs that had been missed, signs that could have spared Maya from the suffering she had endured. As Jasmine finally gets through to the 911 operator, she struggles to keep her voice steady. "Yes, please help. My wedding reception. There's been a terrible incident. My husband. He's been locking my daughter in the cellar," she manages to say, her voice breaking as she recounts the horror of what has been happening. The operator on the other end of the line tries to calm her down, asking for details about the situation and their location. In the midst of the chaos, Sarah, Jasmine's maid of honor, rushes to her side. Her face is filled with concern and guilt. "Jasmine, I'm so sorry. I noticed something was wrong with Maya, but I didn't want to ruin your special day. I never imagined," she says, her voice trailing off as she realizes the gravity of the situation. Jasmine reaches out and squeezes Sarah's hand, grateful for her support in this difficult moment, even though no words are needed. Finally, the sound of sirens pierces the air, growing louder as the police cars approach the reception venue. The double doors of the hall swing open, and two police officers, Officer Chun and her partner, stride in. Their presence immediately commands attention, and the room falls into a tense silence. Officer Chun, a tall and stern-looking woman, approaches Jasmine. "Mrs. Thompson? I'm Officer Chun. We received a call about a disturbance here. Can you tell me what's going on?" she asks, her voice professional and calm. Jasmine takes a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts, and begins to explain the situation, her voice still shaking but growing stronger as she goes on. Just then, a commotion erupts from the hallway outside. David, who has managed to break free from the guests restraining him, bursts into the room. His face is red and contorted with a mixture of anger and fear. "You don't understand. This is all a misunderstanding. Jasmine, please tell them," he shouts, his eyes wild as he looks around the room. The atmosphere in the hall becomes even more charged. Officer Chen's partner quickly moves to the door, his hand on his holster, ready to intervene if necessary. But before he can take any action, Officer Chen steps forward, her eyes fixed on David. "Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down and step back," she says firmly, one hand raised in a gesture to stop him. We have some questions we need to ask you. David, however, is beyond reason. His eyes lock onto Maya, who is still clinging to Jasmine, her small body trembling. Maya, sweetie, tell them the truth. Tell them Daddy never hurt you. We were just playing, remember? It was our special game, he pleads, his voice taking on a desperate edge. His words send a shudder through the room, and Jasmine feels a wave of nausea wash over her. She turns Maya's face into her side, trying to shield her from David's words. That's enough, Officer Chin says sharply. In one swift motion, she pulls out a pair of handcuffs. You're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As she recites David's rights, he seems to deflate, all the fight leaving him at once. He offers no resistance as Officer Chin cuffs his hands behind his back. His eyes, now filled with resignation, never leave Jasmine and Maya. Jazz, please, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. You know me. You know I would never. But Jasmine turns away, unable to look at the man she thought she knew, the man she had planned to spend her life with just hours ago. She focuses instead on Maya, on the feel of her daughter's small body pressed against her, and on the enormous task that lies ahead of them. After David is led out of the hall, Officer Chin turns back to Jasmine. Ma'am, I know this is extremely difficult, but we're going to need to take a statement from both you and your daughter. Is there somewhere private we can talk? She asks, her voice softening slightly. Jasmine nods numbly. The bridal suite. We can use that, she replies, her voice hoarse. As they prepare to leave the reception hall, Jasmine's mother steps forward. We're coming with you, she says firmly, her voice leaving no room for argument. Maya needs all of us right now. Officer Chin nods in understanding. Together, the small group, Jasmine, Maya, Jasmine's mother, and the two police officers, make their way out of the hall. As they walk, Jasmine can feel the eyes of every guest on them. She can hear the hushed whispers of shock and sympathy. The weight of what has happened, of what is still to come, presses down on her shoulders. But as they enter the quiet of the bridal suite, and she sits down with Maya on her lap, preparing to recount the horrors that have been happening, Jasmine feels a steely resolve forming within her. This is not the end. She and Maya will get through this, together. In the days following the disastrous wedding, Jasmine's life is a blur of turmoil. She finds herself constantly on edge, her mind reeling with the revelations that have upended her world. Police statements, tear-filled conversations, and sleepless nights become the norm. Every moment is a struggle as she tries to make sense of what has happened and figure out how to move forward. A week after the ill-fated event, Jasmine decides it's time to take a significant step. She stands in the living room of the house she once shared with David, now filled with boxes. Her parents are by her side, their faces reflecting the worry they feel for her and Maya. The house, which was once a symbol of their future together, now feels like a prison of painful memories. Every corner holds the potential to remind her of the lies and betrayal. Jasmine's mother looks at her with concern. Are you sure you want to do this now, sweetie? We could wait, give you more time to process everything, she says gently. But Jasmine shakes her head firmly. No, Mom. I need to do this. We need to do this for Maya, she replies, her voice filled with determination. As if on cue, Maya appears in the doorway. Her small face is solemn, her eyes still carrying the shadow of what she has endured. Jasmine's heart aches at the sight of her daughter, burdened with the responsibility of protecting her. Come here, baby, Jasmine says, opening her arms. Maya rushes into them, burying her face in her mother's stomach. We're going to make this house ours again, okay? Just you and me, Jasmine whispers. Maya nods, her grip on Jasmine tightening. No more cellar? She asks in a small, hopeful voice. No more cellar, Jasmine confirms, fighting back tears. And no other women at our house. Never again. I promise. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jasmine and her family begin the arduous task of removing all traces of David from their lives. Room by room, they go through the house. David's clothes are packed into boxes, destined for donation. His books and personal items are sorted. Some will be returned to him through his lawyer, while others are discarded. Jasmine's father takes charge of changing the locks. The sound of drilling fills the air as he installs new, sturdier locks on all the doors, including the cellar. Each turn of the screwdriver feels like a step towards creating a safer environment for Maya. I've called a security company, he announces when he finishes with the front door. They'll be here tomorrow to install an alarm system. No one's getting in here without your say, so Jasmine. Jasmine nods gratefully, feeling a small measure of relief at her father's words. As the day wears on, Maya approaches Jasmine with a hesitant question. Mommy, is Daddy ever coming back? she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine takes a deep breath, steeling herself to answer. No, sweetie, she says softly but firmly. Daddy isn't coming back. What he did was very wrong, and he needs to face the consequences of his actions. But more importantly, I need to keep you safe. You're the most important person in my life, Maya, and I promise I will always protect you. Maya nods slowly, a mixture of relief and sadness on her face. Jasmine has also arranged for Maya to start seeing a child psychologist, Dr. Amelia Rodriguez. The first few sessions are difficult. Maya returns home quiet and withdrawn, her emotions bottled up. But Jasmine remains patient, knowing that healing takes time. One evening, as they sit at the dinner table, Jasmine notices Maya pushing her food around her plate, a telltale sign that something is on her mind. What's up, sweetie? Jasmine asks gently. Did something happen at school today? Maya shakes her head, then musters up the courage to speak. Dr. Emmy asked me today if I wanted to talk about the cellar, she says, her voice trembling slightly. Jasmine's heart tightens, but she keeps her voice calm. And did you want to talk about it? She asks. Maya nods slowly. I told her about the old sofa and how dark it was and how scared I felt. I could hear Dad talking with other women upstairs, and I didn't like that. It made me feel sad and confused, she reveals. Jasmine moves to kneel beside her daughter's chair. Oh, Maya, it's more than okay. I'm so proud of you for being brave enough to talk about it. That's how we start to heal, by talking about the scary things and realizing that they can't hurt us anymore, she says, pulling Maya into a warm embrace. As the days gradually turn into weeks, a new rhythm begins to emerge in Jasmine and Maya's lives. The once troubled household is on a path of transformation, slowly but surely becoming a haven of healing and hope. Jasmine is determined to remake their home, believing that by changing the physical environment, she can also start to heal the emotional wounds that both she and Maya carry. Jasmine throws herself into redecorating the house. The walls, previously painted in a neutral beige that David had insisted on, now come alive with color. Maya's room is transformed into a vibrant purple, exactly as she had wished. The living room is painted a soothing sage green, which seems to breathe new life into the space. These changes are not just about aesthetics, they are a symbol of a fresh start, a way to leave the past behind. The energy within the house has also shifted significantly. Where there was once tension and secrets, now there is an openness and a commitment to honesty between mother and daughter. This newfound atmosphere allows Maya to gradually come out of her shell. One sunny afternoon, as Jasmine is hanging Maya's artwork on the fridge, something that David had always discouraged, she hears a soft voice behind her. Mommy, Maya says, her voice a bit hesitant. Can I ask you something? Jasmine turns around and kneels down to Maya's level. Of course, sweetheart. You can ask me anything, anytime, she replies with a warm smile. Maya fidgets with the hem of her shirt, her eyes looking down. Is Daddy ever coming back? She asks, the question filled with both curiosity and a hint of fear. Jasmine takes a deep breath, knowing this is an important moment for Maya. No, sweetie, she says gently but firmly. Daddy isn't coming back. What he did was very wrong, and he has to face the consequences. But most importantly, I'm here to keep you safe. You're the most precious thing in my life, and I will always protect you. Maya nods slowly, her small face showing a mix of relief and a tinge of sadness. I'm glad he's not coming back, she whispers, but I'm also scared. What if he tries to find us? Jasmine pulls Maya into a tight hug. Oh, my love, you don't need to be afraid. We have a new security system, remember? And Grandpa and Grandma are just a phone call away. We're safe here, I promise. As she holds Maya, Jasmine silently vows to do everything in her power to make Maya feel secure again. Jasmine has also arranged for Maya to continue seeing Dr. Amelia Rodriguez. The therapy sessions are showing positive results. Maya is gradually opening up more during these sessions, and some of the signs of her trauma are starting to fade. One evening, at the dinner table, Maya shares another aspect of her experience in the cellar with Jasmine. Dr. Emmy asked me to talk about the noises I heard in the cellar, Maya says, her voice a bit stronger now. I told her about the creaking of the old stairs, and how sometimes I could hear the wind whistling through the small window. It was so scary, but when I told her, it didn't seem as bad. Jasmine listens intently, her heart swelling with pride for Maya's courage. That's wonderful, Maya. You're being so brave. And you're right, sharing these things makes them less scary. As time goes by, small moments of joy become more frequent in their lives. Maya starts inviting friends over for playdates, something she had been reluctant to do before. One afternoon, Jasmine is in the kitchen preparing dinner when she hears a burst of laughter from the living room. She follows the sound and finds Maya surrounded by her grandparents. Her grandfather is telling a funny story, making exaggerated gestures, and Maya is laughing heartily, her eyes shining with happiness. Maya notices Jasmine and immediately reaches out for her. "Mom, come and listen. Grandpa is telling the funniest story," she exclaims. Jasmine joins them, sitting down on the floor beside Maya. As the story continues, Maya leans into Jasmine's side, and Jasmine puts her arm around Maya. In this simple yet precious moment, Jasmine realizes that this is what family truly means: love, support, and the ability to heal together. Later that evening, as Maya is getting ready for bed, she looks at Jasmine and says, "I love you, Mom. You're the best mom ever." Jasmine's eyes fill with tears of joy. "I love you too, Maya, more than anything in the world." She tucks Maya in, kisses her forehead, and leaves the room, feeling a sense of hope and contentment. Despite the hardships they have faced, Jasmine knows that she and Maya are on the right track to a better future.
If this story touched you, show your support by liking and subscribing. Your encouragement helps us keep sharing memorable stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.